everyone. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Bob King. I'm Prospects National Secretary for Defence, and the objective of the exercise here is to give everybody a little bit of an update about what's going on around the sector. First off, it would be remiss of me if I didn't talk about the situation in the Middle East. We're aware that we've got a lot of members who are supporting our armed forces out in that area, and we're out there long before the current conflict kicked off. Obviously, we send them our best wishes. We want to make sure that they all stay safe. We have a constant contact both through the Ministry of Defence and through the various employers. So if you have got any concerns about either you're out there or you're due to go out there or whatever, and you want to have a conversation or you want to get some contacts, you can always contact us. I'll be putting contact details on the screen. This is the first time I've done a video blog, so I'm hoping I can do what everybody else on the internet seems to do, is point somewhere and an email address or a website address will appear, so you can contact us on that. Next up, I just wanted to talk about the Defence Industry Joint Council Delivery Group. We're lucky enough to have a seat on that. We're actually, along with the GMB, the only two trade unions that sit on there, and this is the group that is putting out the plans from the Strategic Defence Review and the Defence Industrial Strategy. The DIJCD is a vehicle and opportunity for us, as well as industry, the Ministry of Defence and people right the way across the sector, to have an input into what shapes the UK defence sector for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And it is about long-term strategy, it's about building skills, it's also about making procurement simpler, it's also about favouring UK companies for that procurement, which is obviously great for us and our members, because we want to make sure that there are long-term, skilled, well-paid, well-supported jobs for them to do. I'm having regular meetings with representatives from your branch and all branches across the sector, so they can give me some input to take to these meetings, but equally so I can feed back to them after the meetings. The next DIJCD meeting is in the next couple of weeks, so if you've got some thoughts on it, you can look it up, and again, I'll put the address on the screen here somewhere if I work out how to do that. See what the group's doing, and if you want to give some input to your representative, they can obviously feed it back to me and we can take it off to that group. At this point, I just wanted to give a little bit of a mention to obviously all the lay representatives across the defence sector. Prospects as a trade union is well supported by very professional representatives in all of your branches, MOD, arm's length bodies, private sector, everything, large and small companies. And it was great to get some feedback, in this case about reps within the DSTL branch, about the great work they've been doing on personal cases. It's really difficult for us as a trade union to advertise that, because obviously we can't breach data protection. We need to make sure that everybody's identity is kept secure. But again, a big thanks to the reps at DSTL and all of the other branches for the work they do, individually representing members in grievances and discipline cases and so on. Those of you in Babcock will be aware that there's been some very high-level conversations led by our negotiations officer, Leon Walton, where we're talking to Babcock about the pension scheme, the future of that pension scheme, but also to make sure that there's some consistency of application in relation to terms and conditions across the contract. It's rather unfortunate that we're losing the current chief executive, David Lockwood. David, we think, has been good for the organisation. He's certainly been very open and direct with us. We've had many conversations with him over that time, but he's going, I believe, in June to be replaced by Harry, who's the current head of nuclear. Obviously, we welcome Harry into the role. But I think more importantly for us is we need to make sure that we strengthen and maintain the bargaining position of our larger branches, Rosyth, Devonport, Clyde, but equally that we raise up those smaller branches who possibly haven't got the collective strength in numbers in order to push a better deal. So we're going to do some more work to make sure those branches get a fair shout as well. Also wanted to just briefly mention HMS Dragon as well, because there was an awful lot of misinformation that went out around that. The issue with the contract, which is run by Serco Marine, we were engaged in negotiations around that. In fact, our members took industrial action to force the employer to allow us into those negotiations. In spite of that, the MOD insisted that the contract was changed to remove the weekend working. Otherwise, our members would have been there 24/7 had they been before, in order to resupply HMS Dragon. It was because of the MOD's errors in negotiating that contract that pushed out the weekend working, meaning they had to rely on the goodwill of our members, which of course was forthcoming, to come in and perform extra hours over the weekend to get HMS Dragon out. There was a few comments in the press about, why weren't the staff doing this? It's important to remember the staff wanted to do this, and in fact the staff took strike action to try and force the employer to continue with this 24/7 working, whereas they would have been in on the weekend doing that work anyway. So don't believe everything you read out there. Check in with us if you're concerned that you're getting some misinformation about the contract. If we don't know the information, we'll go and find out for you. Thanks. Last but not least, it would be remiss of me to not mention the Atomic Weapons Establishment. Those of you with your ears to the ground will know that members there have been taking some very, very well supported industrial action in response to a pretty poor and shambolic organisational design plan by the employer. We were first made aware of this in November last year, although the employer had been sitting in a room planning it for some 18 months prior, but failed to include us, which is obviously not a particularly good way to do things and certainly not a professional way to do things. We've managed to get them to roll back from that, but members did have to take action. We've got a slightly better position now. We're not counting our chickens before they hatch, though, and representatives of the branch have been engaged with the employer over the past few weeks, trying to make sure that we at least get the base data for an organisational design. We've put a pause on industrial action. This is in the hope that the promises that we've been made by AWE will come to fruition, but we'll have to see how that plays out over the next few weeks, and we'll keep you updated. I'll try to do these blogs as regularly as is needed. I was going to set a timescale, but work doesn't always allow for that. If there's anything you think we should be doing or you'd like us to be covering on this, please do let me know. Again, I will desperately attempt to put our contact details up on the screen. And if I can't figure it out, I will do what I normally do, and I'll talk to our incredibly clever members right the way across the defence sector. I'm sure somebody will be able to help me out. Thanks very much for listening in. Again, feel free to leave some comments. I'm going to point again in the hope that I can put a subscribe button somewhere on the screen. Please do follow us. Please do keep in touch. Again, my contact details will be on the screen. And I look forward to hearing from you and hopefully from meeting some of you in the very near future. Thanks very much. Take care. Look after yourselves.